Okay, good evening. I'd like to continue with the Gemaras about Shavuos by sharing tonight what is possibly the most famous Gemara about Shavuos, and then a couple of insights on it. And I'll be honest with you that I'm a little bit nervous that I might have chewed off a bit more than I'm capable of biting this evening, but let's see what happens. The Gemara says, continuing on Shabbos, Peiches 88. Vayisyatzvu betachta sahar, that they stood beneath the mountain. Amar Rav Abdimi Bar Chama. Rav Abdimi Bar Chama says, Malamed, this teaches us, Shekofa aleim HaKadosh Baruch Hu es ahar kegigis, that Hashem held the mountain above them like a barrel. V'amar lehem, he said to them, Imatem mekablim haTorah mutav, if you accept the Torah, that's all fine and good. V'mlav, and if not, sham tehek furaschem, that will be your burial place. Amrav Chama Bar Yaakov mikan modar rabalo raisa. Rav Acha Bar Yaakov said, well, in that case, people have an excuse why they don't keep the Torah, because they can say they only accepted it under duress. Amar Rava, so Rava responded to him, Afal Pike, nevertheless, Hadar Kiblua, they subsequently accepted it again, Bimei Achashverosh, during the times of Achashverosh, by the miracle of Purim. The Chsiv, as the pasuk says, Kimu v'Kiblu HaYehudim, the Jews upheld and accepted. Kimu, they upheld then Masha Kiblu Kvar, what they had previously accepted, and the general understanding of that is that because of the great miracle that Hashem had done, even though originally their acceptance was under duress, at this point in time, their acceptance was now voluntary. There's a lot of questions to ask about the Gemara. Most of the questions are very well known. I'm just going to dash right into explaining what's going on over here. It's an amazing piece of imagery, this view of the mountain being held over their heads, and this warning that if you accept the Torah, that's fine and good, and if not, that's going to be your burial place. And actually, I saw a few years ago that Rav Yechiel Yaakov Weinberg says that the real idea is not that Hashem, so to speak, picked the mountain and held it up over their heads. But the idea is that the very experience at Har Sinai, what the Jewish nation saw and experienced at that point in time, made God's presence so clear and obvious to them, and their need to observe the Torah so clear and obvious to every single person there, that they had no choice but to accept the Torah. There was no way out of it. In a similar vein, I'm going to share with you what the Tiferes Yosef Mishbet says. He says that the revelation of Hashem's presence that the Jewish people experienced at Har Sinai made it very clear to every single one of the people there that the essence of their life was connected to Torah, and that anybody who would disassociate himself from Torah was disassociating himself from life itself. That's what this imagery of the mountain being held over their heads like a barrel is, that Hashem was showing them that the Torah was encompassing them from all sides. They couldn't escape because the Torah was their very lives. And that's what Rebbe Elazar ben Yaakov meant when he said that from here, people have, so to speak, an excuse for not keeping the Torah. Because all of this was fine and good when they saw, with the clarity that they had at Har Sinai, that accepting and observing the Torah was the very essence of their lives. But as time went on and the Jewish people left Har Sinai and they started going about their mundane lives, they lost that clarity. And at that point in time, the opportunity to say, we don't get it anymore. And we don't feel that connection to Torah any longer. And to whatever extent we're continuing to observe it, it's because we feel forced into it now because of something that maybe we understood generations ago. When we are in a state where the light of Hashem is hidden, and we are now being expected to serve Hashem in this state of Hester Panim, where Hashem's face is hidden, we didn't accept that. We only accepted it under conditions where Hashem's light was clear and obvious for all of us. To which Rava responds, Afal pikein hadar kiblua b'mei Achashverosh. Nonetheless, they re-accepted it during the times of Achashverosh. Because at that time, the Jewish people felt as if they had been totally disconnected from Hashem's will. We know the Gemara tells us that one of the reasons for the threat at Purim was because of the fact that the people have bowed down to the idol of Nebuchadnezzar. And they felt that the fact that they were able to do something which was such a sin of idol worship, yes, I know it's a whole discussion in the commentaries as to whether or not it was actually idol worship, but they felt it was such a disconnect from God that they no longer had a connection whatsoever. And even though the Gemara tells us that their bowing down to Nebuchadnezzar's statue was something that was really only done in a superficial manner, but they themselves didn't really realize that it was only superficial. They thought that they'd really thrown in the towel, given up on God, and gone over to the dark side of worshiping the idol of Nebuchadnezzar. So from the love of the miracle that they saw, that Hashem let them know that even though they thought that they had left him, Hashem made it clear to them that it was only superficial. Because that deep inside, even when we can't see the light of Hashem, but the light of Hashem is still shining upon us, just as strongly as if we were still standing by Har Sinai. And when they came to the realization and the understanding that no matter how dark and despondent things were, and even when we give up on ourselves and we think that we are leaving Torah, that there is no such thing, which Hashem showed us through the miracle of Purim, then they were ready to accept the Torah completely willingly under all circumstances. Whether circumstances in which we saw the light of Hashem so clearly that accepting the Torah was something we had no choice but to do, or even under circumstances when things are completely dark and bleak, a Hester Panim, when we don't see Hashem, but we now had the real knowledge that the presence of Hashem is there, even in those cases. Rav Kook has a little bit of a different spin on this. And I'll be honest with you, I'm not sure I understand what he's saying. Even under the best of circumstances, I'm never really sure I understand what Rav Kook is saying. But there's a few interesting points he makes here. I feel it's worth sharing. And those of you who can understand him better than me, please take the ideas that I'm sharing and develop them further. Rav Kook says that free will is the means by which we can establish our own moral compass. But will itself is something which is very part and parcel of the essence of a person. And that's not something over which we really have any freedom. He says we don't have freedom to decide if we have will or we don't have will. He said being willful is the essence of what it means to be a human being. And being alive is something that we weren't really consulted beforehand whether or not we wanted to be alive. So the existence of will within ourselves is not something over which we have any freedom whatsoever. The only thing that we have freedom over is what we do with that will and which direction we're going to direct it. And he says that if the point of Torah was just focused on a person's moral choices, then we should be given free will over every single last aspect of our will. But he says that's not really the point of Torah. He says that the point of Torah is to help each and every single one of us be able to discover and understand and discern and actualize our will. And the intention of the Torah is that we should use it as a tool to reveal our essence, to reveal our true deep inside will, and not just the manifestations of that will. Rav Kook further explains that the Torah is not just a tool for Klal Yisrael, for the Jewish people to use to understand our will, but it is really a work which is woven through the very fabric and essence of existence. And therefore, the very fabric of existence demands the existence of Torah and the acceptance of the Torah by Klal Yisrael. He says that as we stood by Har Sinai itself represents the entire world infused with the power and the force of Torah. And it was representing the world, telling Klal Yisrael that the very essence of life and existence cannot go on without Klal Yisrael receiving the Torah and then using the Torah in order to bring forth our own will. That's what was going on when we stood, as the Gemara says, under the mountain. We were standing under that power that was saying that only if we are prepared to actualize the Torah does that give meaning to the entire world. But if not, then we're losing out the entire point of our existence to bring forth our will, and therefore that is the burial place. Rav Kook doesn't say, but I'm going to add to this, and to a certain extent, Rav Tzvi Kluger discusses this next point in his Sefer Yisrael Bechiri, that the reason why will and expression of will and manifestation of our inner will are so important is because we are meant to be a chip off the old block. We're meant to be a reflection of Hashem. And Shmo, the word meaning his name, the Mikubalim tell us is the same gematria as Ratzon, as will. That's what Hashem is. Hashem is will. And for us to reflect Hashem, our lives have to be a reflection of our inner will. And again, according to Rav Kook, the Torah is the tool and the means through which we are meant to discover and to express our will. Thank you all very much for listening this evening. I hope tomorrow night to continue. Bye-bye.